My name is Natalie Brooks, and the exact second my sister realised I wasn't dead happened on Christmas Eve, under my parents' twinkle lights, when I stepped into the dining room, still wearing an Alaska hospital bracelet, and said, "Merry Christmas, Leah." Leah's wineglass slipped out of her hand and shattered on the hardwood. Nobody moved. Not my mother with the gravy boat mid-pour. Not my father with the carving knife frozen above the ham. Not my uncle, with his phone halfway lifted, ready to capture a family moment. The only sound was the soft, stupid jingle of the playlist my mum insisted on every year, Bing Crosby promising peace on earth, while my sister's face turned the colour of a bruise. Because 2 weeks earlier, Leah had called the same room from Anchorage, sobbing theatrically, and said, "There was an accident. Natalie, she didn't make it." And my parents had believed her. They had cried into each other's shoulders. They had lit a candle at church. They had posted the kind of Facebook tribute that makes strangers type praying hands emojis. They had mourned me, while my sister was busy collecting sympathy like it was a paycheck. Leah's lips moved, but no sound came out. Her eyes flicked to my mother begging, panicking like Mum could still fix this for her. But my mother was staring at me like I'd walked out of the TV. Her face kept changing, cycling through shock, relief, horror, and then something darker, like her brain was catching up to the one fact she couldn't unknow. If I was alive, then what Leah did in Alaska wasn't an accident. It was a choice. I set my hands on the back of a chair and steadied myself, because my ribs still ached when I breathed too deep and my left knee had stitches under my jeans. I didn't come home to be dramatic. I came home because the people who raised us needed to hear the truth in the place where Leah had always been allowed to rewrite it. "Don't," Leah whispered finally, voice raw. "Nat, please." I looked at her, my big sister, my lifelong shadow with perfect hair and a talent for turning every room into her stage, and I felt something cold and clean settle in my chest. "Oh, I'm not here to beg," I said. "I'm here to make sure everyone finally sees you. 2 months earlier, if you'd told me my sister would try to kill me, I would have laughed, then immediately apologized for laughing, because that's what I've always done around Leah. Soften, smooth, make it easier for her to keep being Leah. We grew up in the suburbs of Columbus, Ohio, the kind of place with Target runs on Saturdays, high school football on Fridays, and neighborhood Facebook groups that treat lost cats like a federal emergency. My dad, Mark Brooks, was a steady Midwestern man who believed in hard work and lawn care and never letting people see you sweat. My mum, Diane, was the queen of keeping the peace. She could turn any argument into a casserole and any uncomfortable truth into, "Let's not ruin dinner." And Leah? Leah was the family's first firework. She was 3 years older than me, and she came out of the womb like she had a spotlight above her head. She talked early, walked early, demanded early. She didn't just want attention, she wanted certainty that the room belonged to her. When I was little, I thought that was normal. I thought big sisters were supposed to take up all the air and leave you the corners. Then I grew up, and I became good at things. It wasn't even on purpose at first. I just liked school. I liked checklists. I liked doing something once and doing it right. While Leah needed applause like oxygen, I needed quiet like sleep. In 5th grade, I won the district spelling bee and brought home a plastic trophy the size of a soda bottle. My dad set it on the mantel and told everyone at church, "Natalie's got a brain on her." Leah's smile didn't drop. It sharpened. In 8th grade, I made varsity soccer as a freshman. Leah had played too, but she'd quit the moment it stopped being fun and started being work. When my coach called my mum to praise my discipline, Leah stood in the doorway and watched me tie my cleats like she was memorizing the knots. In high school, I got the stuff Leah claimed she wanted: grades, leadership roles, scholarships. I wasn't flashy, but teachers trusted me. Coaches relied on me. Guidance counselors said the word promising in that tone adults use when they've already decided you're going somewhere. Leah went somewhere too. She went into a constant orbit of drama. She was the girl who could have been anything if she had support. She was always almost, always close, always a victim of timing, teachers, boyfriends, bad luck, unfair expectations. And because my parents were terrified of being the kind of people who play favourites, they compensated. They praised Leah's smallest effort, like it was a miracle. "Leah got a C? C, honey. You can do it when you try." I got an A? Nice job, Nat. Hey, Leah, did you eat lunch today? Leah got dumped. We all had to walk on eggshells for a week. I got accepted to Ohio State. Leah cried in the bathroom, and my mom told me not to celebrate too loudly. It taught me a weird lesson. My success wasn't mine. It was a threat to family harmony. So I stopped caring about being the best in the family and focused on being unproblematic. I went to college, studied logistics and supply chain management, boring to most people, satisfying to me. I built a quiet life, a stable job, a steady boyfriend, then fiancé, named Ben, who thinks Costco is a love language. I didn't post my achievements online. I didn't make my family feel small. I didn't rub anything in. I assumed Leah would eventually calm down. I assumed wrong, because jealousy doesn't fade when you ignore it. It ferments, and Leah had been fermenting for years. The escalation didn't come as screaming or obvious hate. That would have been too easy. Leah preferred a slower poison, little comments, tiny humiliations, a constant effort to make me feel like my stability was an insult. She'd call my job cute. She'd tell people I was lucky. I had no real problems. She'd roll her eyes if my parents praised me, then pick a fight with Mom later, so the attention swung back where she liked it. And whenever I tried to step out of it, to set boundaries, to name what she was doing, Leah would do her favourite magic trick. She'd cry. Not ugly crying, pretty crying, controlled crying. Tears that made other people rush to comfort her and look at me like I'd kicked a puppy. "You're so cold sometimes, Natalie," she'd whisper. "I'm your sister. I'm just trying to connect." So I learned a second lesson. In our family, Leah's feelings were facts. My feelings were inconvenient. The invitation came in late November, right after Thanksgiving, because of course it did. In my family, major life shifts always happened around food and forced togetherness. Thanksgiving at my parents' house is a whole production. My mum treats it like she's hosting the Macy's parade. The table has name cards. The pies are labelled. The football is on. But nobody is actually watching it. They're watching each other. That year, Leah showed up with a new boyfriend, Colin, who looked like he'd been designed by an algorithm to scream, "Trust fund, perfect teeth, Patagonia vest." The kind of guy who says interesting instead of wow. Leah clung to his arm like he was her proof of value. During dinner, my dad asked me how work was going. I mentioned, casually, that I'd been promoted to operations lead and might be travelling more. Leah laughed. Too loud. "Of course you did," she said. Like my job had, personally, offended her. Colin smiled politely. "That's impressive." Leah's fingers tightened on her fork. My mum chimed in fast, as if she could physically patch the air. "Leah's doing great too," she said. "She's exploring options." Exploring options was my mother's way of saying Leah had quit another job after 6 months because someone had disrespected her. Leah waved a hand. "I'm fine," she said, then leaned toward me and said in a voice only I could hear, "You always loved being the perfect one." I blinked at her. "Leah, I'm literally just eating turkey." She smiled without warmth. "Sure." After dinner, while my mum packed leftovers, like she was prepping for the apocalypse, Leah cornered me in the kitchen. "Hey," she said, voice suddenly soft. "Can we talk?" That alone made my stomach tighten. Leah didn't do soft unless she wanted something. She tilted her head, eyes glossy. "I've been thinking," she said. We never really got to be sisters, you know? Like, real sisters." I stared at her. "We grew up in the same house." "Yeah," she said quickly. "But it was always competition, and I hate that. I hate what it did to us." My mum hovered nearby, pretending to fuss with a dish towel, while clearly listening. Leah reached across the counter and touched my wrist like she was touching a wound. "I want to fix it," she said. "I want us to start over." And then she said the sentence that made my mother's eyes light up like Christmas morning. "I want to take you on a sister's trip." My mum gasped, dramatic as always. "Oh my God, Leah, that's beautiful." I pulled my hand back gently. "A trip where?" Leah smiled, like she'd been waiting for this question. "Alaska." I actually laughed a little, because it sounded ridiculous in that moment. "Alaska? In December? That's the point," Leah said. "It's magical. Northern Lights. Snow. Cozy cabins. Like a movie. My mum clasped her hands. Natalie, you should go. You two need this. I looked at Leah. Something in her gaze was too steady, too rehearsed. But then she blinked, and her eyes went wet. I know I haven't been easy, she said. I know I've made things hard, but I'm trying, Nat. Please. And there it was. The plea. The performance. The part where the room waits to see if I'm the villain who says no. So I did what I always did. I swallowed my discomfort to keep the peace. Okay, I said. We can talk about it. Leah exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for years. Yes, she whispered. Thank you. My mum hugged us both like she'd just healed generational trauma. And in the living room, my dad looked relieved, because if his daughters were getting along, he wouldn't have to face what had been rotting underneath for decades. That night, Ben asked me, "Are you sure about this?" I shrugged, trying to sound casual. It's just a trip. Ben didn't buy it. He knows my family's tone shifts the way other families shift seasons. Leah doesn't do grand gestures unless she's hiding something, he said. I rolled my eyes. Maybe she's finally growing up. Ben stared at me for a long beat. If you say so, but promise me you'll keep your guard up. I promised. I didn't understand yet that in Alaska, my guard wouldn't just be emotional. It would be physical. It would be life or death. Leah handled everything. Flights, hotel, car rental, excursions. She texted me itineraries like she was a travel influencer. Day 1, Anchorage. Day 2, Girdwood, Alyeska Resort. Day 3, Adventure Day. Her words, some kind of snowshoe hike to a secret viewpoint, a local guide recommended. Day 4, Talkeetna, cute town, coffee, photos. Day 5, fly home. It looked normal, maybe even sweet, but there were tiny things that didn't fit. She insisted I pack real boots, not the cute ones. She told me to bring hand warmers. She forwarded a weather forecast screenshot that showed a storm icon and wrote, "Lol, we'll be fine." The forecast said, "Winter storm warning." I texted her, "Leah, this looks serious. Should we reschedule?" She called immediately. Her voice was bright, too bright. "Nat, don't do that," she said. "Don't back out." "I'm not backing out," I said. "I'm being practical." She laughed, light and dismissive. "You always have to control everything. Just let it be fun, for once." I almost said no right then, but then my mum called the next day and said, "I'm so proud of you two." And I heard the hope in her voice, so I went. We flew out of Columbus on a grey December morning, the kind where the sky looks like wet concrete. Leah wore a cream turtleneck and a long coat, like she was starring in a holiday ad. I wore jeans and a parka, and the uncomfortable awareness that I was stepping into someone else's script. At the airport, Leah hugged me for the first time in years. "Look at us," she whispered. "Sisters." I hugged back, stiffly. "Yeah." On the plane, she talked non-stop about the trip, about how Alaska was healing, about how we'd laugh about old stuff and start fresh. She showed me photos of cabins with string lights and mugs of hot chocolate. I nodded along and tried to ignore the way her excitement felt, edged. Like anticipation, Anchorage was stunning and brutal at the same time. Snow piled on everything. The air had that sharp, metallic cold that makes your lungs feel awake. The mountains loomed like quiet judges. Leah took a million pictures. Me in front of the hotel. Me holding coffee. Me on the sidewalk with snowflakes in my hair. "Smile," she kept saying. "Come on, smile, like you're happy." I started to feel like I was being documented, not loved. That first night, we ate at a trendy place downtown, where the menu had words like foraged and artisan. Leah ordered cocktails. I ordered soup, because my body was still adjusting to the cold. Halfway through dinner, Leah leaned forward and said, "Do you ever wonder what it would have been like if you'd been less perfect?" I blinked. "What?" She swirled her drink, eyes on the glass. "Like, if you'd messed up, if you'd needed help, if Mum and Dad had to worry about you the way they worried about me." I felt my stomach tighten. "Leah, I don't know how to answer that." She smiled, slow. "I do," she said softly. It would have been fair. I stared at her. Are we really doing this right now? Leah's face shifted, instantly hurt, wounded, innocent. I'm just being honest, she said. I thought that's what this trip was for. I took a breath. Okay, honest. I never tried to be perfect to hurt you. I was just me. Leah's eyes flicked up. And you was always better. That's not true. Leah laughed, sharp. Natalie, you can't even lie convincingly. I looked away, suddenly exhausted. Can we just eat? Leah lifted her glass. Sure, she said, and her smile returned like a mask snapping back into place. To new beginnings. I clinked my water against her cocktail and tried to ignore the chill that wasn't coming from the weather. That night in the hotel room, Leah fell asleep fast. I lay awake listening to the wind outside and the soft hum of the heater. My phone buzzed. Winter storm warning extended. Heavy snow. High winds. Travel may become impossible. I stared at the screen and thought about Ben's voice. Keep your guard up. I should have listened harder. The next morning, Leah announced, We're going to Girdwood early. Why? I asked. Because I booked us a cute cabin outside of town, she said. It's supposed to be more private. Private. That word landed wrong. But again, my habit, my curse. I didn't want to be the difficult sister. I didn't want to prove Leah right about me controlling everything. So I went along. We drove south along Turnagain Arm. The water dark and frozen at the edges. Mountains rising like walls. The road was beautiful, in a way that makes you forget it can kill you. Leah played music, old songs from high school, and sang along like we were best friends. She even laughed at one point and nudged my arm. See? She said. This is nice. I almost believed it. In Girdwood, the snow was heavier. The wind cut across the road in white sheets. We checked into a small cabin. Leah had rented wood walls, a little fireplace, fairy lights strung along the window. It was cute. It was also isolated. No neighbours close enough to wave at. No front desk. No cameras I could see. Leah watched me take it in, and her smile looked satisfied. That night, she suggested we do an early adventure the next day, before the storm got worse. The guide says it's safe, she said, showing me her phone. What guide? I asked. Leah waved a hand. A local. He knows a trail that's perfect. Not crowded. Not touristy. I frowned. Leah, if the storm is getting worse, maybe we stay in and do puzzles like normal people. Leah's jaw tightened. Just for a second. Then she softened. Nat, she said, voice low. I planned this. For us. Don't you want to make a memory with me? I stared at her. There it was again, emotion used, like a lever. Fine, I said quietly. But if it looks bad, we turn back. Leah's smile widened. Of course, she said. Promise. In hindsight, that's the scariest part. She lied so easily, like promises were just sounds to get what she wanted. The next morning, the world outside the cabin looked like a shaken snow globe. Wind slammed against the windows hard enough to make the glass shiver. The trees bent like they were praying. I walked into the kitchen and saw Leah already dressed. Full gear, boots laced, hat tight, cheeks pink like she'd been waiting for a curtain to rise. You're serious? I asked. She turned, bright-eyed. It's fine, she said. The storm's supposed to hit harder later. We'll go quick. My phone had no service. Leah's phone had one bar that flickered like it was unsure. This is a bad idea, I said. Leah's smile thinned. You said you'd trust me. I stared at her. That's not what I said. Leah's eyes flashed. Then she forced a laugh. God, you're exhausting, she said lightly, like it was a joke. Come on. We drove to a pull-off, where a small trailhead sign was half buried in snow. There was no other car, no other footprints. Leah led the way, snowshoes crunching, breath steaming. I followed, adrenaline prickling under my skin, telling me something was wrong even if my brain refused to name it. The trail wasn't really a trail. It was a suggestion, a faint line between trees that disappeared when the wind kicked up. After 15 minutes, I stopped. Leah, I can't even see where we started. She turned back, and her face changed. Not dramatically, not like a horror movie, just enough. Her eyes looked flat, calm, like she'd finally stopped performing. Good, she said. My stomach dropped. What? Leah took a slow step toward me, snow whispering under her shoes. Do you know what it's like? She said, voice almost conversational, to grow up next to someone who makes you look like a mistake. I blinked hard, because the wind had tears in my eyes, and for a second, I thought I misheard her. Leah, I said carefully, whatever this is, we can talk about it at home. She laughed. At home, she repeated, where Mum and Dad look at you like you're the successful one, and look at me like I'm a problem they have to manage. That's not... Yes, it is, Leah snapped, and the softness disappeared. It's always been that. You just pretend you don't notice, because it lets you keep being the good girl. I took a step back. We should go back. Leah didn't move. She just watched me, head tilted slightly, like she was evaluating angles. The wind screamed through the trees. Then Leah said very quietly, I didn't bring you here to talk. My pulse hummed. Leah, stop. Her mouth curled. Stop what? Stop being honest? I fumbled for my phone out of instinct, like a talisman. No service. Cold battery. Leah noticed and smiled wider. No signal, she said. Isn't Alaska magical? I tried to keep my voice steady. People know we're here. Leah shrugged. People know we went on a trip. People don't know where we are right now. And by the time anyone searches, she let the sentence hang. I heard my own breathing. Fast. Loud in my ears. Why? I whispered. Leah's eyes narrowed. Because I'm done watching you win by existing, she said. Because I'm done being the consolation prize sister. I didn't do anything to you, I said. And my voice cracked in a way I hated. Leah took another step closer, and her voice turned almost tender. That's the part you never understood, she said. You didn't have to do anything. You just were. The wind shifted. Snow blasted between us, white and blinding. And then Leah moved. Fast. She lunged like she'd been waiting for that exact gust, like she'd practiced the timing. Her hand slammed into my chest. My feet went out from under me. For one horrifying second, I saw only white sky and spinning trees, and Leah's face above me, calm and certain. Then I fell. Not a dramatic cliff drop. Worse, a steep, hidden embankment disguised by snow. My body hit hard and rolled. Something in my ribs screamed. My knee bent wrong and pain flashed so bright it turned my vision black at the edges. I grabbed at snow and roots and nothing held. I slid until my back slammed into something solid. A half-buried log, maybe, and I stopped in a heap. I gasped, and cold air stabbed my lungs. Above me, Leah stood at the top edge, looking down. You pushed me. I choked. Leah tilted her head. You slipped, she said, like she was rehearsing for the police already. I tried to move. My legs screamed. My hands were numb. Help, I begged, and I hated myself for it. But pain does that. It makes you primal. Leah crouched at the edge and smiled. I'm not here to help, she said softly. I'm here to finally be the only daughter they talk about. I stared up at her, disbelief choking me. They'll find out. Leah laughed. From who? Then she did the cruelest thing. She waved my phone. My phone. Somehow it had flown out of my pocket when I fell and landed near her. Leah held it up like a trophy, then slipped it into her jacket. No, I rasped. Leah stood, brushing snow off her gloves, like she'd just done a chore. It's a blizzard, she said. People die out here, all the time. Tragic. Unavoidable. And you always did love a dramatic ending. I tried to scream her name, but the wind stole it. Leah took one last look down at me, eyes cold, face smooth, and said, almost cheerfully, Merry Christmas, Natalie. Then she turned and walked away. I lay there in a pit of snow and pain and silence, watching the edge above me disappear into white. And I understood something with terrifying clarity. My sister didn't just hate me, she was willing to erase me. At first, my brain refused to accept it. It kept trying to turn it into something else. Miscommunication, panic, a mistake. But then another gust hit and snow filled my mouth, and I coughed and tasted blood, and reality snapped into place. I was alone. I was injured, and the storm didn't care. Survival isn't heroic the way movies sell it. There's no inspiring soundtrack. There's just your body screaming at you to keep heat inside. I forced myself to breathe slowly, because panic burns energy, and energy burns heat. I checked my limbs, fingers numb but moving, arms okay. Ribs felt like knives. My left knee was wrong, swollen fast. Every movement sent pain shooting up my thigh. I couldn't climb back up the embankment, not with that knee. So I did the only thing I could. I made myself smaller. I used my arms to scoop snow and pack it around me like a wall. Snow is insulation if you can trap air. I remembered that from some random documentary Ben had watched. My eyelashes froze. My lips cracked. My teeth chattered so hard my jaw hurt. Time turned weird. Minutes felt like hours. Hours felt like one long breath. At some point, I heard something faint, like a distant engine. A snow machine. A plough. My heart surged. I tried to yell, but my voice came out as a broken whisper. I grabbed a branch half buried beside me and started scraping it against the log behind my back, tap, 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 hoping sound would travel. The engine grew louder, then faded, then grew louder again, like someone circling. I kept tapping until my arms shook. Then the world went quiet. I thought, that's it. I missed them. My vision tunneled. My body started doing that dangerous thing where cold stops feeling sharp and starts feeling soft, sleepy. I remembered a line I'd heard somewhere. If you get warm in the cold, you're dying. I forced my eyes open wider. No, I whispered out loud. Not like this. I pictured Ben's face, my dad's laugh, my mom's hands, the life I hadn't even started fully yet. And then like a cruel joke, a memory surfaced. Leah in the kitchen at Thanksgiving, saying, "You always loved being perfect." Well, I wasn't perfect, but I was stubborn. I pulled my glove off with my teeth and used my bare fingers, already half numb, to claw snow away from a dark pocket near my hip. My hand hit fabric. My purse. Leah had insisted I bring a small backpack for snacks. I'd clipped it around my waist like a fanny pack because it was easier. My fingers shook as I unzipped it. Inside, a crushed granola bar, a tiny flashlight, and thank God, an emergency whistle attached to the strap. I pressed it to my lips and blew. The sound was thin at first because my lungs hurt. I forced more air. Blew again. 3 sharp blasts. The wind tossed it. But a whistle is designed to cut through noise. I listened. My heart pounded so loud I almost couldn't hear. Then faint but real. An engine revved and changed direction. I blew again. And this time, I heard a shout. "Hey, over here." Relief hit so hard, it almost made me vomit. I started sobbing, but tears froze on my cheeks instantly. A figure appeared above the embankment, blurry through snow. A man in heavy gear, goggles, a bright jacket. He leaned over, scanning. "There!" he yelled. "I see you." I lifted my arm weakly. He disappeared, then reappeared lower, climbing down carefully like he knew this slope could kill him too. When he reached me, he crouched close, voice loud over wind. "Can you talk? What's your name?" "Natalie," I croaked. "My sister, she..." Okay, he interrupted gently, hands already working. "We'll talk after. We need to get you warm." He wrapped something around me, an emergency blanket that crinkled like foil. Then he pulled out a radio and spoke into it fast. "I've got one female, conscious, injured, need medevac, coordinates coming." He looked at me again. "You did the right thing with the whistle," he said. "You saved yourself." I tried to laugh, but it turned into a cough. He didn't ask why I was alone. Not yet. He didn't ask where my sister was. He just focused on keeping me alive. A while later, time still weird, I heard the heavy thud of rotor blades, a rescue helicopter hovering somewhere nearby. The sound felt unreal, like the world was remembering I existed. They strapped me to a sled and hauled me up. Pain shot through my knee so hard I screamed. The medic's voice was calm, steady. I know. Breathe. You're safe now." Safe. The word hit me like a promise I didn't fully trust yet, because I knew what waited on the other side of this. My sister's story, my sister's tears, my sister's accident, and my family's instinct to protect the version of reality that hurt the least. In the Anchorage hospital, they treated my body first. Torn ligaments in my knee, bruised ribs, Mild hypothermia. Cuts on my hands, where I'd clawed at frozen ground. A nurse warmed my fingers in a basin and apologized every time it hurt, like she was sorry the world could be cruel. When they asked how it happened, my mouth went dry, because there's a moment when you're surviving something insane, where you realize the next part will be its own kind of survival. The truth. I told the doctor. My sister pushed me. The words hung in the sterile room like smoke. The doctor didn't look shocked. He looked cautious, like he knew what accusations can do in families. He said, carefully, "We should notify law enforcement." "Yes," I said immediately. "Please." A state trooper came later. Alaska State Trooper's patch on his sleeve, face weathered, calm eyes. He introduced himself as Trooper Evan Carver and sat beside my bed like he'd done this 1,000 times. "I'm going to ask you questions," he said. "I want you to take your time." I did. I told him everything. Thanksgiving invite, storm warning, secret viewpoint, the push, the phone, Leah walking away. Trooper Carver listened without interrupting, taking notes, occasionally asking for specifics, like times, locations, what Leah said word for word. When I repeated Leah's line, "People die out here all the time," his jaw tightened slightly. "That's specific," he said. "It wasn't a panic," I whispered. "She meant it." Trooper Carver nodded once like a decision had clicked into place. "We'll find her," he said. "But I need you to understand something. She may already be telling a story. We're going to move fast." And that's when my fear shifted, because I knew Leah's greatest skill wasn't violence. It was narrative. She would cry. She would perform. She would make herself the grieving sister, the traumatized survivor. And my parents would believe her, because believing her would mean they didn't have to face what they raised. Trooper Carver asked, "Do you know where she is staying?" "The cabin," I said. "Near Girdwood. She rented it." He stood. "We'll go now." Before he left, he looked at me with a seriousness that cut through the hospital haze. "Miss Brooks," he said, "I need you to keep your phone off social media. I need you not to contact her. If she thinks you're alive, she'll change behavior." A cold thought hit me. Leah thinks I'm dead, and she wants it that way. So I nodded. "Okay." They kept me under a name variation for privacy. They moved my room. They told staff not to share information. It felt dramatic, until I remembered Leah's calm face above that embankment. Trooper Carver came back that night with an update. "We went to the cabin," he said. "She's not there." My stomach dropped. "She left?" He nodded. "We found evidence she packed quickly, but we also found..." He paused, eyes sharp. "Your phone." My breath caught. "You did." He held up an evidence bag with my cracked screen inside. It was in her toiletry kit. My hands shook. "So you know, we know she had it," he said. "And she lied already. She told responding officers she couldn't find you and assumed you went back to the car. But we have your phone in her possession. That's not an accident." He sat down again, voice low. "She also made a call." "To who?" He glanced at his notes. "Your mother, from Anchorage Airport." My chest tightened so hard it hurt more than my ribs. Trooper Carver watched my face and said quietly, "She told your family you didn't make it." I closed my eyes, because I could picture it too clearly. Leah, in a public place, face crumpled, voice shaking, collecting strangers' sympathy while she built her story. Trooper Carver continued, "We're pulling surveillance from the airport. We're pulling rental car GPS. We're also issuing a bolo, and we're coordinating with TSA. She can't just disappear." I swallowed. "She will try." He nodded. "People like that usually do." The next day, a detective from Anchorage PD joined. Detective Maya Kim Sharp. No nonsense. Hair pulled back tight like she didn't have time for anyone's nonsense. She asked one question that made my skin go cold again. "Did your sister have a financial reason to want you dead?" I blinked. "What?" Detective Kim didn't soften it. "Life insurance. Inheritance. Accounts. Any paperwork where she benefits." My brain spun. I thought about our parents not wealthy, but stable. A house, retirement accounts, a couple life policies. I thought about Leah's chaos with money, her exploring options, her constant need to look like she was thriving even when she wasn't. And then a memory hit. Leah asking me, months earlier, who my beneficiary was on my work life insurance. At the time, I'd laughed. "Ben," I'd said. "Why?" Leah had shrugged. "Just curious." I looked at Detective Kim and felt my throat tighten. "I need to call my fiancé," I whispered. Ben answered on the second ring, voice tight with exhaustion and grief. "Nat?" he said, and it broke on the syllable. It's me," I said quickly. "Ben, it's me." Silence. Then a sound like someone sucking in air so hard it hurts. "Oh my God," he whispered. "Oh my God, Nat. I'm alive," I said, and my voice shook despite everything. "I'm hurt, but I'm alive. Ben, listen to me. Leah tried to kill me." Ben made a noise, half sob, half growl. "I knew it," he choked. "I knew something was wrong. Your mum called me and said." "I know what she said," I interrupted. "Ben, I need you to do something. Check everything. Bank accounts, insurance, anything Leah could touch. And I need you to come here." "I'm coming," he said immediately. "I'm buying a flight right now. Don't post," I warned. "Don't tell my parents yet," the trooper said. "I won't," Ben said, voice turning hard. "I won't. Nat, I'm so sorry. I should have stopped you from going." "It's not your fault," I said, but my eyes burned. "Just come." After the call, I stared at the ceiling and let the reality settle deeper. Leah didn't just want me gone emotionally. She wanted me gone legally. As detectives worked, the why began to grow teeth. Leah had taken out a personal loan months earlier, big enough to scare her. She told my mum it was for career stuff, but the truth was uglier. There were gambling charges. There were luxury purchases she'd returned later. There was an eviction notice she'd hidden, and there was something else. Leah had applied for a line of credit using my information. She tried to attach my stability to her chaos. It failed because I had alerts set up. I'd called and locked things down. Leah had pretended it was an error, and cried about how humiliating it was that I'd assumed the worst. Now, lying in a hospital bed, with my knee wrapped and my ribs taped, I understood. Leah didn't just hate me for being better. She needed my life, and when she couldn't borrow it, or steal it, she tried to end it. A week later, I was released with crutches and strict instructions. Ben arrived and wrapped me in a hug so tight I hissed from rib pain, then immediately apologized and hugged me again, gentler, trembling like he was holding something fragile he'd almost lost. We stayed in Anchorage because the case was moving fast. Detective Kim and Trooper Carver brought me the key evidence, like they were building a wall around me. Airport footage. Leah walking through TSA, with red eyes, but no real disorientation. A performance. Rental car GPS. A stop at a pull-off. Nowhere near any official tourist trail. Then a return without me. My phone. In her bag. Texts. Leah. Deleting parts of our thread, but not all of it, because tech always keeps fingerprints. And the worst, Leah had searched how long for hypothermia to kill, the night before the hike. When Trooper Carver said that, I felt my stomach turn. "She planned it," Ben whispered, voice rough. "Yes," I said quietly. "She planned me. They issued a warrant. Leah was picked up in Seattle, trying to fly to see a friend. When the officer approached, she started crying immediately, saying she was traumatized, and everyone is blaming me. She asked for her lawyer before she asked if I was alive." That part mattered. When Detective Kim told me that, I stared at my hands and felt something in me harden into something new. Not rage, resolve, because this wasn't just about my pain. It was about stopping Leah from doing this again to someone else, maybe me again, maybe Ben, maybe our future kids, maybe anyone who stood between Leah and the story she wanted to live inside. But even with an arrest, the hardest part was still ahead. My family. Because legal justice is one thing, family myth is another. My parents were flying to Anchorage when they heard Leah had been detained. Not to check on me because they didn't know. To support Leah. Because they believed they were grieving. Because Leah had trained them to believe she was always the one who needed saving. Detective Kim asked if I wanted to tell them by phone. I said no. I wanted them to see me with their own eyes. I wanted the truth to be physical in the room, impossible to soften. So I waited until the flight details came in, then asked Trooper Carver one question. What happens if she's out on bail? and goes home before trial, he said. We can request conditions. And that's how I ended up with a plan that felt almost unreal. Leah would be extradited back to Alaska, arraigned, and then depending on bail, could be released, pending trial. But she was arrogant. She would want to go home to Ohio and soak in sympathy. She would want to sit in my parents' living room and relive her performance. So we let her, with conditions, monitoring, and an open case file that was only waiting for one thing. The moment Leah couldn't resist rewriting reality to the people who mattered most. And Christmas was perfect for that. Because Christmas in my family is a stage, and Leah can't resist a stage. When we flew back to Ohio, quietly me on crutches, Ben carrying bags, my body still sore, we didn't go to my parents' house. We went to Ben's place first. We met with an attorney. We coordinated with the local detective assigned to assist with interstate conditions. Then, on Christmas Eve, we drove to my parents' house. Ben parked down the street so no one saw. The cold bit my cheeks as I hobbled up the walk. Inside, through the window, I could see the warm glow of the tree, the same ornaments, the same wreath, the same curated, family feeling. And I could see Leah, seated at the table, wrapped in a cardigan like she was delicate. My mother, beside her, touching her arm in that comforting way she used when Leah cried. My father pouring drinks like he was trying to keep the night moving, like if they ate and laughed and played their roles, grief would behave. I heard my mum's voice through the door when I knocked. Come in. So I did. I walked into my childhood home like a ghost, returning to demand its name back. The entryway smelled like cinnamon and ham, and the little pine candle my mum always lit for the vibe. My dad's laugh started, then stopped. Natalie, he breathed, like the word hurt. My mum turned, and her face collapsed. Oh my God, she whispered. Leah's chair scraped. She stood too fast, and her eyes went wide, not with joy, with terror. And that was the moment I knew no matter what story she told herself, Leah never expected me to walk back in. Because deep down, she believed she could erase me like a typo. Merry Christmas, I said again, quieter this time. I'm alive. My mother made a strangled sound and rushed toward me, then stopped short like she didn't know if she was allowed to touch me. I buried you in my head, she choked. I know what you did, I said gently. Because Leah told you. My dad stared at me, eyes wet. Honey, he whispered. Honey, we... His voice broke. He tried again. We thought... I know, I said, and my throat tightened. But listen to me. Leah lied. Leah's voice cut in, sharp and shaking. Natalie, stop. I turned to her slowly, and I watched her try to do it the pivot. The face change, the tears, the performance that had saved her 1,000 times. Nat, Leah cried, stepping forward like she wanted to hug me. Oh my God, I thought you were. I thought you were gone. I looked for you. Don't, I said, and my voice wasn't loud, but it landed heavy. Don't touch me. Don't pretend. Not here. My mother's eyes flicked between us. Leah, she whispered, confused. What is she saying? Leah's tears spilled faster. I don't understand, she sobbed. I'm the one who's been suffering. Ben stepped in then, calm and solid, and said, there are officers outside. The room froze. Leah's face snapped toward him. What? I nodded once. I came back to tell the truth, I said, and I'm not doing it alone. My father's hand tightened on the chair back. Natalie, he said, warning in his tone, like he still believed I might be the one causing a scene. I looked at him and felt something break and heal at the same time. Dad, I said quietly, your daughter was left in a blizzard because her sister wanted her dead. My mother covered her mouth. Leah shook her head violently. No, she whispered. No, no, no. I took one step toward her, crutches awkward, pain flaring, but my eyes locked on hers. Tell them what you said, I demanded. Tell Mum what you said, right before you walked away. Leah's lips parted. Nothing came out. I leaned in. You said, people die out here all the time. My voice sharpened. You said, from who? When I told you they'd find out. You took my phone. You walked away. My mother's face went pale. Leah, she whispered, is that true? Here. Leah's eyes darted, searching the room for rescue. But no one moved. So Leah tried her last weapon, anger. She snapped her tears off like a switch and hissed, "You always have to be the victim." I actually laughed one short, bitter sound. "Leah," I said, "I was in a snow pit trying not to freeze to death. If that's not the victim, what is?" Leah's voice rose. "You don't understand what you've done to me, what I've done to you." My chest burned. "You think my existence is violence?" Leah's hands clenched. Her mask was slipping now, and underneath it was a thing I'd sensed my whole life, a hungry rage. "You were always the one they loved," she spat. "They'd look at you and see pride. They'd look at me and see work." My mother flinched. "Leah, that's not..." "It is," Leah snapped. "You just don't like hearing it out loud." I turned to my mother then. "Mum," I said softly. "She didn't bring me to Alaska to heal anything. She picked the day of the storm. She chose a trail with no people. She searched how long hypothermia takes." My father's face twisted. "That can't be real." Ben's voice was steady. "It's documented." Leah lunged toward Ben like she could claw the truth out of his mouth. "Shut up!" And that's when the front door opened behind us. A local officer stepped in. Calm, professional. Another stood behind him. "Leah Brooks?" the officer asked. "Leah Froese." And for the first time in my life, I saw her without an audience she controlled. Just a woman caught in the truth. Her voice went small. "This is insane," she whispered. "Mum?" My mother didn't move. Leah looked at my father. "Dad?" My father's hands shook, and he looked like he might collapse. "Leah," he said, voice broken. "Tell me you didn't." Leah's eyes went wild, and she whispered, "I didn't mean..." The officer stepped closer. "Ma'am, you're being placed under arrest, pending extradition, compliance, and violation of conditions. Please turn around." Leah backed up until she hit the table. Her gaze snapped to me pure hatred. "This is your fault," she hissed. I took a breath. Slow. Controlled. "No," I said. "This is your consequence." When the officer cuffed her, Leah screamed. Not a sad scream, a furious one. A scream that sounded like the truth, finally ripping through her throat. My mother slid into a chair, like her legs quit. My father put his head in his hands. The Christmas playlist kept going, cheerful and wrong, as Leah was walked out past the wreath and the lights and the staged warmth of our family. After the door shut, the room didn't feel quiet. It felt hollow. My mum whispered, "Natalie, why would she?" I stared at the table at the gravy, the ham, the plate still set like the night could have been normal. Then I said the hardest truth in the gentlest voice I could manage. Because we all spent years making sure Leah never had to feel responsible for what she did to people. My father looked up, eyes red. "We didn't know." "I know," I said. "But you did see how she treated me. You just didn't want to name it." My mother's tears spilled. "I thought it was sisters," she whispered. "It wasn't," I said. "It was a pattern. The legal process wasn't fast, but it was steady." Leah was extradited. Charges upgraded when prosecutors reviewed evidence. Attempted murder, evidence tampering, theft, my phone, and fraud-related charges tied to the credit attempt. I testified. It was awful, not because I was scared of Leah in the courtroom, she looked smaller there, stripped of control, but because my family sat behind me, watching the story of their daughters turn into evidence. Leah tried to smile at me once during a recess, like we had a secret, like she could still pull me back into her orbit. I didn't look at her, because I was done giving her my attention as payment. When Leah's defense tried the angle of accident and panic, Detective Kim presented the search history. Trooper Carver presented the phone. The prosecutor played the body cam audio from the cabin. Visit Leah's calm voice, saying she assumed Natalie went back to the car, while my phone sat in her bag. Then I took the stand and repeated Leah's words. People die out here all the time, and I watched jurors' faces change. Because that line wasn't a mistake. It was intention. Leah was convicted. When the judge read the sentence, Leah finally cried the way she should have cried a long time ago. Ugly, uncontrolled, real. My mother sobbed too. My father held her. I sat with Ben and felt, not joy, relief. Like a pressure that had been on my chest since childhood finally lifted. Afterwards, in the hallway, Leah turned her head as deputies led her away and hissed, low enough only I could hear, "I hope you're happy." I looked at her, really looked, and I said the sentence I'd needed to say my whole life. "I'm not happy," I said. "I'm free." In the months after, my family tried to reset. My mum apologized in pieces, small shaky admissions. "I should have listened. I should have protected you. I didn't want to believe my own daughter could." My dad tried to be strong, but sometimes I caught him staring at old family photos like he was trying to find the moment everything went wrong. Ben and I went to therapy, because surviving someone's cruelty doesn't just end when the court does. And I learned something that surprised me. Healing wasn't forgiving Leah. Healing was finally believing myself. Believing the discomfort I'd swallowed for years wasn't drama, it was instinct. Believing that keeping the peace is not the same as being safe. Believing that love without accountability is just permission. The last time I went to my parents' house before New Year's, my mum lit the pine candle again out of habit. Then she stopped, looked at me, and said softly, "Do you want me to put that out?" I stared at her and felt a strange warmth behind my ribs. Not because a candle mattered, because for the first time, my mother asked what I needed instead of what looked normal. "Yeah," I said. "Put it out." She did. And the house smelled like nothing for a moment, just clean air. It felt like a fresh start. If there's a lesson in what happened to me, it's not the dramatic one people like to post online. It's simple. When someone shows you they resent your light, don't hand them matches and call it reconciliation. And if your family insists you dim yourself to keep someone else comfortable, that isn't peace. It's a slow kind of betrayal. I didn't come back from Alaska as the perfect daughter. I came back as a woman who finally understood this. You don't owe anyone access to you just because they share your blood. And you don't owe anyone your silence just because they cry convincingly.